The 2025-26 season has come to an end, but the NBA is still white hot. The Knicks are champions. The NBA draft is next week. We're breaking it all down on a brand new episode of Modern Flame. Let's do it. How you doing, Vin? We're a week removed from the NBA Finals concluding. The Knicks win in 5. We've obviously had some time to let everything digest. Let's start here. What's your main takeaways from the NBA Finals? It could be a Knicks perspective, a Spurs perspective, a league perspective. Where do you want to kick things off?
So we'll kick things off with a me perspective in the most just self-centered way possible. But the biggest takeaway that I found is like I don't want to do this because it's like such a bandwagon thing, but I found myself like going back to my 5-year-old ways, and like I picked the Spurs to win in 7 going into the series. I was hoping the Spurs won in 7, so I was right. And then every game I was like, I want the Knicks to win. Like I can't help but just root for the Knicks. I love the team. There's just something about that place that
Yeah.
the Garden is just special. New York City is just special. The way they completely just um lock in on basketball in the early summer months. It's overwhelming. It's awesome. And I found myself just being a Knicks fan. Honestly, like I was so happy that the Knicks won. I don't know if that will continue into next year, but for the finals, I found myself just being like an all-on Knicks fan.
It checks out. And as the finals are wrapping up, and I went into the series rooting for the Spurs. I wanted the coronation for Wembanyama to happen, and we discussed that prior to the finals starting. But got to the end of it, and watching game 5 ends, and Maria's sitting next to me, and she's like, I'm sorry, I know you wanted the Spurs to win. And I was like, this is actually probably the best thing for the league.
Yeah.
The NBA is just better when the Knicks are good.
Mm-hmm.
There are some franchises in all of professional sports when they're good, it's just good for the health of the league.
Yep. Yep.
I happen to root for one of those teams in the NFL. I think that the NFL is better when the Bears are good or interesting.
Yep.
I think the Yankees are like that. The Red Sox are like that.
I think we saw
The
that in
late
college football this
Celtics.
year with Miami. It was just good for
Yes,
college
Miami,
football that
great
Miami
example.
was
Notre
good.
Dame.
Like,
Yeah, no, there are just some programs or franchises that the overall health of the league is better if they're
mhm.
good. And I think that this is like the absolute perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Because we have this Knicks team where it's this fan base that is starved for a contender. And not only do they get a contender this year, they get a contender that, as you put, is just so lovable with
Mm-hmm.
the way that they play. They have their one singular superstar in Jalen Brunson, who we'll get to. But I do think that the way that this team, every player kind of fell in line and understood their role, and they just steamrolled through the playoffs for the most part. Now, this series was a little different. They found themselves down double digits every game, but
Mm-hmm.
they never wavered. It never changed the way that they played. It felt like they never really felt the pressure of the moment. They just stuck with what worked. It was some Brunson centric offense. And then if you have to send another guy to get the ball out of his hands, they just put you in the blender and it's beautiful basketball.
Yep.
They reminded me in a lot of ways of the 2014 Spurs, who we devoted a whole podcast to in Campfire season 1. Just the way that they can ping the ball around. Everyone is super unselfish. Um, it was beautiful to watch, and these crowds, MSG, were awesome. The
Hmm.
crowds on the road when all these Knicks fans came in and just invaded these arenas, whether it be Philadelphia or Cleveland or San Antonio, it was just awesome.
Yep.
Um, and we get to the end of it, and never is it more clear that the health of the league is strong than you look at the ratings for these finals. Most watched finals since 1998. Um, they average over 20 million viewers per game. It's the first series since 2016 to have 3 straight games with at least 20 million viewers. Um, and it turns out it's not just the finals. The opening round of the playoffs was the most watched since 1993. Most watched opening 2 rounds since 1997. The conference finals, Spurs Thunder was the most watched conference finals series since 2002. The league is just on an upward trajectory, and it's great. I mean, we picked a fantastic time to start a podcast about it. Um,
I
and yeah,
wonder if that is probably why, I would assume.
if we're making a pie chart of who gets the credit for the NBA, reaching this new golden age, we at least get a sliver of that pie, without
Yeah,
a
it's
doubt.
also an NBC and Peacock in Prime. Just four really big networks coming together to make the league, star. But no, you're right.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I think that can you were you mentioned how you were rooting for the Spurs because you wanted like the crowning achievement of Wembanyama, but I think I think we got that like in a weird
Mhm.
way with the OKC series. So like he's arrived. To me, he is the face of the league. Um and so you get that superstar at 22 years old. Um really he took the torch. I don't think anyone and like it's going to be hard to get that away from him. But then you also get the storyline of New York City. So it did. It worked out. Um, and the whole season I felt like just was amazing. We had from start to finish, we started out with OKC and oh my goodness, this team is unbelievable. And then we got to the mid season. Is Joker the best player ever? This is the best year of all time. And then he gets hurt and then it goes into the Spurs OKC rivalry. And the Knicks were just kind of like a slow burn all year
Mhm.
long. And you knew once it got to the playoffs, you were going to see MSG one game and fall in love again. Um, no, it was just a great year. Celtics had a good storyline and the Tatum return and them really shocking everyone. I don't think anyone thought they were going to go for it this year and to be the two in the East and the favorites going in to the playoffs. Like everything just really worked out for the league. Got a LeBron moment in the playoffs. Like it was just amazing.
No, we could spend a whole podcast just rehashing the entire 2025-26 season. You have Bam scoring 83 points.
Yeah.
Wembanyama, you said face of the league, but kind of going from like face of the league as a beloved presence to
The
now
villain.
like the ultimate villain.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
such a cool arc, and it sets up for like a really interesting 2026-27 season for him, just to see how he responds to that, because you're right, he didn't need the championship to become the face of the league.
Hmm.
That happened in the OKC series, and even more so I think it happened in the finals because he became so polarizing
Yeah.
up against this universally beloved Knicks team. um and then, for the Knicks, we I think we've gotten far enough where we have to hit on Brunson.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, who who notched one of the greatest finals clinching performances of the Campfire era, and that actually minimizes what he did throughout the entire postseason. But I put together a list of the greatest finals clinching performances since 2000. And I just want to kind of walk through it and see where you think this Brunson performance lands. So, Shaq in 2000 closed out the Pacers with a 41-12. Which was really like so routine for Shaq
Right.
in those three Lakers titles, where it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. He was
Yep.
averaging like 35 and 13 for all those series. Um, Duncan had the 21, 20, 10, and 8 game against New Jersey in 2003. Wade closed out Dallas in 2006 with 36, 10, 5, 4 steals, 3 blocks. I had a pair of LeBron games in there. 2013, he had 37, 12, and 4 against San Antonio. And then
He had some
2016,
big shots too in that game. He had to pull up.
he hit the clincher
Yeah. Yep.
with under 30 seconds to go that put him up 4.
Yep.
Um, that game, we talked about that when we did game 6 of 2013. That game 7 gets lost in the shuffle, like
Yep.
in NBA history.
Yep.
Incredible game 7.
Yep.
And then 2016, he had 27, 11, 11 and the career highlight with the block on Iguodala. Giannis had 50 in the closeout against Phoenix, added 14 rebounds and 5 blocks. And then I think it's Brunson. I think that is the list probably of, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, closeout games. Brunson has 45 against the best defense in the league. 29 in the second half. Just gives them one big bucket after another as they're trailing and clawing back into the game. So like where does that game rank for you? It's somewhere, it's definitely in that club.
Yeah.
And I don't know how near the top it is, but regardless, if you like he's
So,
in elite company.
oh, absolutely. And I mean, that's not even an argument. I think my argument is it's at the top. I'm not saying it's number one. But like when you run through the list, I feel like Shaq, and Duncan, the two earlier 2000s games, those teams I felt like overpowered their opponents, and it never
Mhm.
really felt like it was going to be a very close series. What both were 5, right? Both went 5.
Both ended in 6.
6. Okay. Which is weird because Brunson won his in 5, but I just felt like those teams just kind of overpowered the Nets and overpowered the Pacers. Um so those two obviously are great performances, but I put Brunson's over that. Giannis, the way he hit his free throws and the fact that they came down, they were down 2-0, and then won 4 in a row. Um at I think it was in Phoenix, like that's a great performance. So to me, that's up there. And then LeBron his 2 performances are probably up there. So I'm saying it's top 4, Brunson.
Yeah.
And I don't know where where in the top 4. Some days I might argue it's 1 because like you mentioned, the defense that he had to go up against, it the fact that he had to guard or he had to bring the ball up against Castle and Harper and all of these long athletes who were in his shorts literally 90 feet. And then if he does get by him, he has to figure out a way to score over a 7'6" guy. Like that was just super impressive to watch, and it showed like his intelligence, because he wasn't getting off in the first couple of games. His efficiency was horrible. He was scoring late, obviously. He's Mr. Clutch, but throughout the game, it felt like they took him out of his spots. And then like game 4, game 5, it was like, oh my God, he figured this out. Like he's 6'1", he's not fast, he can't jump, but he just somehow figured out the Spurs defense and just got to his spots and was able to score whenever he wanted.
That's all it was. And it's funny, it actually made me think about our Kobe episode of Campfire when you were talking about how with Kobe, it was just like, it doesn't even really matter what the defense does. It just is, can I get to my spot?
Yep.
And that's kind of what it felt like with Brunson in the last
Mhm.
like game and a half of this series was it doesn't even matter that I have these fucking young pit bulls hounding me 90 feet and then the biggest man in the NBA
Yep.
behind them contesting every shot that goes up in the paint. It's just like if I get to my spot, I've done my job. And he kind of talked about that. He was like, after game 5, he was kind of just like, I just thought about all my repetitions in practice in the off season. And that's exactly what he did. It was just methodical. Um,
And I
and
feel like that's his whole career. Like
yeah,
from high school on, Jay Wright's been on almost as on as many, TV shows as the Knicks have, I feel like. And he was talking about how, when he was recruiting Brunson, going into I think his senior year, like he was not a McDonald's All-American. He was not a highly, highly rated recruit. I mean, obviously he was signed and going to Villanova, so he was a good player. Um, but it's just like the consistency of him, and he just never wavers from it. Um, and he always like gets the last laugh.
Mhm.
In college, I mean, he started as a freshman, but he played 3 years, won 2 championships. But going into his third year, like, I mean, Jalen Brunson going into that year wasn't really like National Player of the Year candidate. Um, Everyone fell in love with Trae Young very early in that college season. And then at the end, Brunson's the National Player of the Year and he wins the second championship in 3 years. It's just, he goes to Dallas and is Luka's sidekick, and then Luka gets hurt and he scores 30 in playoff games and goes to New York and no one thinks he's going to do it. He's not a 1A type player. And here we are. It's like he just
That's
stays
a,
the course and he never changes and he just puts the work in and it's amazing. It's awesome to watch.
that was a tough L for Becky Hammon to take
Yeah.
in the finals.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. Uh, a lot of the discourse has been like, what is the doppelganger for this Knicks team? And I think that there are certain ones that make sense, like the 2014 Spurs. I think you could point to as an example. I think even like the 2011 Mavs, where it's
Mhm.
this team of like a lot of really solid role players and then one superstar who kind of they all like orbit around. But really, it's the 2018 Villanova team
Yeah.
that is like closest. And it's funny because there are guys from that Villanova team
Right.
on
Right.
this Knicks team, but they were built the same sort of way. It was Brunson centric. He kind of controlled everything. He's not really the prototypical get your offense organized point guard, but it all starts with him. And then he gets into the paint, the ball gets pinged around, wide open shot. And that was all it was for the Knicks. And they just put teams in a buzzsaw for
Yeah.
throughout the playoffs. They go 16-3 in the postseason.
Can I ask
Um,
you your opinion on something? Because you are
yeah,
right. The Knicks to me, um, they were beautiful to watch at points. And I thought Brunson, he does a nice job of getting off the ball when he's doubled. And that
mhm.
does get teams in the blender. And I think like they played a little through Cat and Brunson showed, he was capable and willing to get off the ball and go set a flex screen that would get him open on the wing. What makes him different than Harden? Because he gets a lot of like his scoring very similar to Harden. He does. He controls the ball for a large portion of the shot clock, but visually it just seems different. It seems a little bit more watchable. What's your thought process on why that is?
That's a really good question. The first two things that came to mind for me were I feel like he's a little more willing to get off the ball than Harden is.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's quicker to get rid of the ball and almost like more content with it with like not getting the assist on the play than Harden is. Where with
Mm-hmm.
Harden it's like I'm isoing at the top of the key and we're going to get a shot either from me or off a pass from me. Where with Brunson it feels more like I'm just making the correct basketball play. I'm going to hold the ball 2 beats shorter than Harden will,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll beat you to death with the 4-on-3
Yep.
after the ball's out of my
I
hands.
also
The
feel
other
like
thing I think is just go
go
ahead.
ahead. Finish. Well, I was just gonna say I feel like off the ball too. He's not just
He's more
standing.
active off the ball.
He's
Yeah.
way more active off the ball, and I feel like when you watch Harden sometimes and he's just standing, you're like, dude, like you're not doing anything on this offensive possession. You're letting the defense basically take a possession off here. Where
Mhm.
I don't find that with Brunson. It doesn't seem like it's like my turn, your turn type of an
Right.
offense with him. He's fully bought into like the team offense. Just a lot of the time, he's with the ball.
No, I completely agree with that. The other thing that immediately came to mind was just the shot diet, and maybe I'm off with this, but it feels like he's mastered a little more in that like 8 to 15 feet range that Harden just like
Oh,
kind of ignored. Where
yep,
with him it was threes, layups, or free throws,
yep,
and Hart and Brunson rather could just kill you in the mid range,
yep.
and that's kind of his preferred shot. Like he'll
Yeah,
get 2 feet just inside the paint, create a little bit of space, and then hit you with that like 14-foot step
it's the
back.
Villanova
And
shot, man. It's
yeah,
the Villanova
it's the
shot.
same thing he's been doing since he was at Nova. It's the same
Playoff,
exact thing.
playoff 2 feet, and honestly, like Josh Hart and Bridges do it too. Like they all do it. He's just the best at it. But the way they play off 2 feet in the paint is it's like, just amazing.
Yeah. And I'll give a little bit of credit to Harden here, I guess. I don't know that he's ever been on a team since he left Oklahoma City where when the ball gets out of his hands, he's surrounded by 4 guys who could do what the Knicks supporting cast could do. We need to rehash something that we talked about in our Game 7 2019 East Semis episode of Campfire. We did a breakdown of the greatest playoff game winners in the 21st century. And we just so happen to have a new entry in this category thanks to OG Anunoby's right hand of God tip in Game 4.
They might just go flat for Jalen Brunson, allow him to operate at the top, one-on-one. Brunson gets it, fires up a three. Shot no good, the chip, it's gone! It's gone! It's gone! With 1.2 remaining, Knicks take the lead. OG Anunoby, and it's 107-106. Bedlam here at the Garden. They can't believe it.
It might be number one.
I'll just throw it out there. Where does it rank? We crowned Kawhi against Philadelphia as the number 1 game winner in the playoffs of the 21st century. It was a Game 7. They advanced to the East Finals. They end up winning the title. I personally think Anunoby tops it,
Yeah, for
and you
multiple
just said
different
it too.
reasons. Like the atmosphere, the game itself coming down 29, I mean, it was the exclamation mark on the biggest comeback in NBA history. the shot itself, the athleticism that it took. But also, I think the Spurs win the series if they win that game. Like that's where I think it is number one because, you know, the Spurs go down 0-2. If they come back and they win 2 in the Garden, like their confidence level is at an all-time high. And it's not like the Knicks beat up on the Spurs. They were down double digits in every game.
Right.
So it was a very evenly matched 4-1 gentleman's sweep. Without that tip-in, I sincerely think the Spurs win. So that's why I think it's number one.
I totally agree with you. I went into game 4 thinking whoever wins this game is going to win the series.
Yep.
And I particularly thought that with San Antonio getting up by 29
Yeah.
in the second half, it kind of felt like, oh shit, they figured this out.
Yep.
They figured the Knicks out just like they figured Oklahoma City out.
And at
And
that point, you could have argued it could have been a sweep. Like
well, they
Wemby
at the
doesn't have
very
the
least
ball.
should have been up 3-1.
Right.
Like you could make the case. Game 1, that was the most. It's strange to say, it was probably the most even game of the series. The Knicks win by 10, but it kind of felt like that was a 50-50 game. All those other games, it felt like the Spurs let one go.
Yeah.
And this one in particular, it just was a killer. And the degree of difficulty on that tip-in, the body control, the timing of it all, just the breaks that the Knicks had to get on that play, whether it be Wembanyama being the primary defender on that Brunson shot, which, well, let me ask you this. How are you with that decision?
Not happy. I don't like that. I didn't like the way they guarded that at all. Did it?
Let me ask a follow-up.
Yeah.
Did you not liking how they defended that have more to do with Wembanyama guarding Brunson or the fact that they then sent a second defender? Because that was the problem for me.
Fox was in no man's land the entire possession because he didn't guard the inbounds like the inbounds pass. He didn't guard OG. It was like, and he wasn't even like trying to take away Brunson. They ran a little action on the strong side of the court, and then Brunson kind of just had a down screen on the far end, and Vassell was on him, and he just easily just switched Wemby, which I don't mind that part. But like, what's Fox doing not trying to deny Brunson the ball? Like, if you're going to deny anyone the ball, let it be Brunson. And then after he's trying to deny Cat the ball, he leaves and goes to double Brunson. And OG, there's no one on OG the entire possession. I felt like it was a breakdown. I would have put Castle on Brunson. And he wasn't even on him to start. Vassell was, so that was strange. I didn't hate that they switched Wemby out on him, but I would have liked Wemby not on Brunson at that point. I would have wanted Castle on him. Like that would have been my go-to as a coach. But to then bring a second guy and not even touch OG, I thought it was unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm with you. I too would have preferred that it had been Castle guarding Brunson. And I think Castle did a great job defending Brunson
All
throughout
year.
the series. He made him
Or
work
all
for
series, yeah.
everything. Fundamentally, I don't necessarily have a problem with Wemby ending up out on Brunson. He's the defensive player of the year. For a guy his size, he sticks with perimeter players better than he has any right to. And you have to figure Brunson.
Very difficult shot.
Yeah, Brunson, and you have to know Brunson is probably taking this shot.
Yep.
So if you want to get Wemby all up in his space and make Brunson shoot over a guy who's 1.5 feet taller than him, I'm fine with that. Why Fox was even on the floor was curious to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that we could, that's a larger issue for the Spurs and one that they're going to have to figure out going into next year is Fox one of the 5 guys you want to close the game with? To me, that felt like it should have been Wembanyama, Castle, Harper, Vassell, and Champagny.
Yeah.
And you just go with those 5 and you count on either Harper or Castle, or if there needs to be a switch, you could, Vassell and Champagne could hold up just fine. Fox is the one guy that they would attack.
Yep.
And it just so happened he was the one guy who should have gotten a body on Anunoby and didn't. Just let Anunoby get a free run to the basket. His help was late. It was unnecessary. It didn't really
I
do
just
anything.
if you're gonna leave the inbounder, why not just completely deny Brunson the ball with him? Like, why even
Sure.
let okay, because there was what, 5 seconds left?
Yeah, I think 5.9.
Okay, so if they get
Maybe.
the ball into Cat or they get the ball into like, let them go make a play. At
Mhm.
that point, whatever. If they hit a shot, they hit a shot. You took the ball out of, the clutchest player in the NBA right now, his hands. I'm fine with that. I could live with the results, but the fact that you didn't have anyone on OG and Brunson still got the ball, I'm like, what? There was that served no purpose. Like, and he
Not
already
only
shot
got the
the ball
ball,
before
got the
Fox.
shot off,
Yeah.
and there was no box out on Anunoby. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um. So are we? Can we crown
Yeah, I
the
think we
right hand
can.
of God
I
as?
mean, it's everything too. 53 years without a ring, like it's everything. So yes, that's number one to me.
And congrats to OG Anunoby joining the Two Timers Club, which we also
Yeah.
talked about
Yep.
because he had the game winner against Boston in the bubble. So
Yep.
two
Yep.
for Anunoby. Great series for OG Anunoby. Um,
Absolutely.
if not for Brunson's game 5, maybe had an outside chance to win Finals MVP.
Yeah, without a doubt. I
Um,
mean, it got to the point where anytime he took a corner three, I felt like, oh, that's in.
it's
Like,
automatic. It hit. Anunoby in the corner, like just put the points on the board before he could do the Steph turn
yep.
around, look at the bench.
Yep.
It's going in.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's shift to the Spurs. I don't think that there's really reason for San Antonio to panic. I think the fact that they made the finals is a victory, and this is something we've talked about before. Wemby losing in the finals is going to be unfairly held against him from
Mhm.
a career kind of legacy perspective
So
because
stupid, but okay.
people
Yeah.
seem to think that losing in the championship round is worse than losing in round 1 or not making the playoffs
Should have lost
altogether.
to the Celtics in the round one. If you would have lost to the Celtics in round one, he'd be the GOAT, but he made it to the finals, so sorry.
It just does not make sense to me. No, there's no rational argument that anyone could make that will make it make sense to me. I just want to point out we should remember that he's 22 years old. He is the best defensive player in the NBA. This was his first postseason ever, and he averaged 26, 11, and 3.5 blocks um, in the NBA Finals. And people are talking about how bad he played. He shot poorly. He faded down the stretch in some of these games. I can't, I'm not going to sit here and say that he didn't,
Two.
but what?
He's 22 though.
He's
Like he's
22. Never played this deep into the season before. And against the two best teams in the league, aside from San Antonio, he averaged 27, 11, 3, and 3 against Oklahoma City and New York.
yeah.
I, like, and I feel comfortable saying this is the worst he's going to be.
Yes. Yeah, no, like they shouldn't feel one bit worried. I mean, Wemby had a great playoff, don't get me wrong. Like I don't want to take anything away from Wemby. What I think they could almost be even more excited about, because I think they know how great Wemby is. Harper is a dog. Like,
There you go.
wow. Like, and Castle had great moments too. Like, I thought Castle was great against OKC. I think he struggled a little bit in the finals. Um, but like the arrival of Dylan Harper is you have your big three. End of story. That's it. And now it's just like, what do we do to fit guys around them. And the fact that you already know who your core is, and now you could just, I mean, you, they're set. Like, in my opinion, I think they could make some small upgrades. Like,
Yeah.
I know, and we'll get into some free agency stuff later, whether it's this pod or next, but like, I know they're eyeing up maybe like snatching Rui from the Lakers. I think, if you go Harper, uh, Castle, Vassell, Rui, Wemby, like now it's a little bit of an upgrade. On the defensive end, I think he could do a little bit more shot creation than Champagny on offense. So like small little things like that. Maybe could they upgrade from Cornette? Um, could they get like a Robert Williams, someone who's a little bit more athletic? Like small moves that are
Yeah.
very they're capable of doing that. They don't got to break the bank or anything like that. So, no, I think that they should be extremely excited going forward, and I think the league should be terrified, especially because we got Wemby as a villain already. He's not no more Mr. Nice Guy. Like he's here to win, and he doesn't care if it's the All-Star game, if it's the NBA Cup. He wants it all. And it's great.
And it feels like Harper and Castle are like it's a hive mind
Yep.
for them where their thinking is completely aligned. And what's scary for the rest of the league, and I love Steph Castle. He played a huge part in UConn winning a national championship. I will forever appreciate him for that. I feel like he's almost miscast as a number 2. Harper's going to be the number 2 guy on this team. And I said it a while back. I could see a scenario with the Spurs where there's a final series down the line where Wembanyama isn't even San Antonio's leading scorer in the series. And seeing Harper in his first finals average 18 points off the bench on just about 50% shooting, that made me feel really good about that sort of like trajectory for the Spurs, because it's not going to be long until he's a 25 point per game guy.
It felt like
And
if he
that's going to
played,
take
he
so
would do
much of
that
the burden
now.
of Wembanyama. What's
Yeah.
that?
I said it felt like if he got those minutes this year, he would have been at that mark already. I mean,
Yeah.
he was consistently scoring in the high teens, low 20s throughout the finals, it felt like. And I mean, he probably hit the biggest shot for the Spurs. He hit that little turnaround jumper to tie the game late in, I think it was game 5. And they hadn't scored. Like they just went
Yeah.
scoreless for so long, and he was the one to get into the lane and break that. So yeah, he's arrived. And I guess that's the thing is like, is Castle going to be cool with being a 3? It felt like it. It feels like that's kind of who he is. It felt like he was comfortable not really getting a ton of shots at UConn. Still was a high pick. And he's going to get a lot of praise playing with Wemby. He's going to be in bigger games like that. All of that is going to play a big part. So I hope they could keep him all together for long. Yeah, they're ready to go. I can't sleep on OKC though either. Like it's just that the West is going to be they're in great shape. So
let me ask you this: you've done some coaching. What does Wemby need to add going in next year? If you're the like support staff on the Spurs coaching staff, what are you telling Wemby? We need you spending X amount of hours every day working on this.
I mean, I think it's gonna just be a natural, like his natural maturity of his body. I felt like he got pushed around off his spot quite a bit throughout the entire playoffs, and that just wears on you. And I think that's why he did end up coming up short, being tired at the end of the games. Yeah, he needs to improve his body. I think once his body kind of fills out a little bit, he's not going to get knocked off his spot. I think his skill level is fine. I mean, his handle is great. The problem is when he gets into his bag, you could just get into his body and knock him off his spot. Eventually, that's not going to happen. And when he's gonna get to his spot, he's gonna be fine. I also think he, could he work on a little bit of like back to the basket, 15-foot turnaround, Duncan style, um, maybe, but like I feel like he kind of already has that. I don't really think he needs to work on much basketball. It's more of just filling out and just becoming more mature. Again, he's 22, and you could say, well, he's never going to be that big, but look at Giannis. Like when Giannis came into the league, he was a toothpick, and then seems like Wemby has that mindset of he's going to do whatever, and he's already gotten a little bit bigger. He's going to continue
Oh yeah.
to get bigger and stronger and more mature. And yeah, I don't like, there's a lot of people like, oh, he doesn't have a go-to move. Yes, he does. He just gets knocked off his spot. So then he has to shoot, a jumper. It's playing through contact for me is what he needs to get a little bit better at.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And, watching his body mature from his rookie season into year 2, into year
Yeah.
3, you could see him getting stronger, and he already
Yep.
plays better, like playing through contact than he did as a rookie. What I want to see out of him, and it's not even so much like he needs to work on this, it is he needs to be more willing to do it. I felt like there were times where he would get a catch at like 15 feet and he would hold the ball a little too long.
Mm-hmm.
He's got such a nice jump shot. I just want to see him catch and just go right into shooting motion and just be comfortable living in that 15-foot range.
Yep.
Before someone could get up into your body, before you could be pushed off your spot, if you get that catch, just turn and shoot. I want to see him do that with a little more willingness.
And I felt like that was kind of like the knock on him this playoffs is sometimes he just felt not as aggressive as he should have been. But when he was aggressive, he was amazing. So like that's
Right.
why I don't know what he needs to necessarily work on. It's more of like you said, it's a mindset. It's like go out there and score 50. Don't worry about getting your teammates involved. They'll figure it out. Like you're the best player in the world, go dominate.
Yeah.
And he showed that. There were times where he'd come out and score 15 in the first quarter. And those were usually the games the Spurs would win. And then there'd be games where he'd come out and he'd have 4 shot attempts in the first quarter. It's a mindset. And again, he's 22 and he's trying to figure it out. He's trying to make sure his teammates are involved. And he's got young teammates. So he's like the leader. So I think it's honestly all gonna probably end up improving his game. Like the fact that he had to go through all of these trials with these young guys, like what they did this year is going to make them significantly better going into next year. Now that they know and they faced, they got the test. They've never been tested before. So now they know going into it what their mindset has to be. Because again, I don't think it's a skill issue at all. Maybe body, but it's more mindset, like you said.
Very well put. Anything else to add on the finals before we move on to the draft?
No, I thought that I thought that ESPN did a decent job with it. I will say I didn't watch much of like the halftime stuff, so I don't know. I didn't really get into that, but overall I thought that it was awesome to get the logo back. I thought that was great. So no, overall awesome finals. Fell in love with the Knicks. Think the Spurs are in great shape. So yeah.
We gave the ESPN broadcast a little bit of a hard time. I will say I really like the 3-man booth that they have right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Green and Legs and Richard Jefferson, those 3 are really good.
Yep. And it's because Richard Jefferson and Legler, they appreciate what's the product is.
Yep.
And they're comfortable. Like Richard Jefferson's extremely comfortable making fun of himself and putting guys currently in a spotlight where they should be and not trying to steal that spotlight for himself. So
yeah, they're both former players who have no ego.
Yep.
Which I think is ideal for those 2 color spots.
Yeah. That's why I loved Reddick. because I is
Yeah. Oh, Redick was
arrogant
great.
as Reddick appeared when he was on the broadcast. He never really like went into, oh, they're not as good as me. Like it never was
No.
that. And I thought he was a great broadcaster too.
No, there are some former players who just get it. Like Kerr was like that.
Yep. 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 I think Reggie is even like that.
I love Reggie. I thought
I do
Reggie did a
too.
great job during the conference finals.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, NBA draft. We're a couple days out. Um, I should note we are recording this on Saturday morning, day before Father's Day. This is going up on Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there, by the way. To your dad, my godfather. To my dad, your godfather. Happy Father's Day. NBA draft coming up on Tuesday. The Washington Wizards are on the clock. How do you think the top four is going to play out? Because it seems like the closer we get to the draft, it's becoming a little more unpredictable, which is great.
Yeah.
It makes for a great viewing experience on draft night. How do you see the top four playing out? And we'll get to the rest after, but there's a clear-cut top four, it seems like, that everyone loves.
Yeah.
And, you know, I still don't know how it's going to play out. What's your feeling right now?
I although no disrespect to Caleb Wilson, I think he's great. I not like again, he's gonna go in the top four. I don't think he's in the top three though. So I think Caleb Wilson is going to be a Bull. I think the Bulls have the easiest pick in the draft. Well, maybe Memphis at 3. But specifically the Bulls, they're at 4. Whoever falls to them, that's who they're going to take, and they're going to be very happy about it, and they're probably going to get an all-star out of it. And then to me, it's like at 1, there's an argument between Debansa and Peterson, because I do think Washington is strongly considering Peterson. I don't think Boozer has gotten to that point. I think he's not going to be the number 1 pick. I do not believe that. But then at 2, I think Boozer could very well come in and jump Peterson or Debansa at 2. Maybe not Debansa. I think if Debansa fell to Utah, they would snag him. That would be. But if Peterson falls to 2, I don't think that he's like a guaranteed lock. If I had to guess, I'm gonna go Debansa, Boozer, Peterson, Wilson. That would be
That's exactly what I have in my notes. That would be my guess. And I'm with you. I think that I do think that if Peterson goes 1, I think you slot Debansa in. He has so many ties to the Jazz organization, the state of Utah. Like that'll be an easy one. I do think that they'll take Boozer if Debansa's number 1. Peterson, we talked about this very briefly a couple months back. Peterson, for whatever reason, just worries me a little bit. I don't know why. You watch some of the tape on him. He can be electric. I heard him described as a 6'6" Damian Lillard the other day, which if that is what he comps out to be, like lights out, he's going to be just incredible. But I would, and I've been on this position for a while, I would take Debansa first. I feel like he's the safest of all those guys in the top 4.
Yeah.
All good?
Yes. My battery was running low.
Oh, I saw your ear for a second, and I was like, oh gosh, what's happening? Yeah, I think Debansa is the safest of all those guys at the top. I think that Boozer is the correct number 2 guy. If I were making a big board, Debansa and Boozer would be my top 2. And I will say, I was not quite as high on Caleb Wilson a a couple months back, but he's bringing out the headset.
That's right.
Oh
Can you hear me?
man, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. I'm in my gamer mode right now.
All right, Vin's about to play some Fortnite as we continue our talk about the draft. So yeah, Caleb Wilson, I was not super high on. I don't think I saw enough of him throughout the year, and unfortunately, he gets hurt late in the year. We were robbed of seeing him in a Duke game late in the year. He didn't play in the tournament. I really I've talked myself into the idea of him going to Chicago, and you just have two Calebs running Chicago. I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. They're like great marketing opportunities for those two teams. Also, a strange comp, but one I feel really good about. I happened to get sucked into some Len Bias highlights the other day.
Oh.
There are some similarities, and I'm gonna like. Obviously, we don't know what Bias could have been in the NBA, but if you just put their college highlight reels up next to each other, it's a little doppelgangery. Like it's pretty cool. So we have those top four, and we're in lockstep. I think it goes to Bansa, Boozer, Peterson, Wilson. At 5 with the Clippers is where the draft, I think, starts to get really interesting. And
Yeah.
really that extends all the way through the rest of the lottery, because there are some good teams in the back of the lottery that are going to be picking who could potentially add guys to teams that are going to be playing deep into the playoffs next year. So I'll just go rapid fire on some questions that I have about the rest of the lottery. What do you think the Clippers do at 5? Do you think that they could potentially move back out of that spot? Who tries to move up? Is there a good fit for them there? I'm struggling to find the right guy for the Clippers.
I think they if they can get a trade suitor, I do think that they end up trying to move back, just because I think they're going to get off Kawhi. I think they're going to try to get as many picks as possible. But I do think that like there are a lot of point guards available. So I'm going to say a point guard gets picked at 5. I'm not going to guarantee which one that is, but it's a long way of saying that I'm not answering your question. But I see a point guard getting picked at 5. I don't know if it's going to be the Clippers. If I was the Clippers, I would try to move off it and kind of go into a rebuild mode. But they did just build a new arena. They still do have Kawhi, so they might, try to get a point guard and go with it. But it's kind of weird too, because like, what do you do with Garland? I'm sure maybe he's on the move. There's a lot of thought process that goes in there, but there are like 3 really, really talented point guards, probably 4, from 5 to 9, that I think are going to impact winning at the NBA level.
Yeah, and it's strange because the Clippers don't need one theoretically because they have Garland. Brooklyn just drafted 4 of them last year. Brooklyn, to me, is a team that should be trying to move back because they don't have their first rounder next year. They have a million point guards already. And it feels like there are going to be teams that are potentially eager to move up. So if I
Yeah.
was Brooklyn, I'd just be trying to recoup as many assets as I could, fall back into the later part of the lottery. I think that there are still talented guys there, whether it's one of the 3 Michigan guys who will probably go in the lottery.
So
Like
hear me
I
out
think
though. With the new lottery like structure, because they're in the top 5. At this point, when you get a top 5 pick, do you feel like you need to pick, because what do you only get 3? You can't go 3 years in a row with a top 5 pick, right?
right.
So if they trade back, does that count? Like, does this year
No,
count?
from what I've gathered, is regardless of what they do on Tuesday night, they still aren't eligible to have their first round pick next year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, if you're Brooklyn, you could be looking at this from a perspective of we just need as much talent as possible. If there's someone like Darius Acuff who's sitting there at 6, who could be an exciting player, someone who you could put on the side of your arena, someone who maybe brings a little bit of excitement into Barclays, and God knows they need it, especially now with the Knicks being champions. They are more irrelevant than ever. Maybe you just say, we're just going to take the guy that we feel best about, the highest guy on our big board. We're taking him regardless of position. We'll figure the rest out. I would go the other way. I would try to just get as many assets as possible, move off of that pick. And, you could still, there's not a guarantee that all of these point guards are going to go in succession. You might have someone like a Kingston Flemings or a Keaton Wagler who falls a little bit further down than we expect, just because maybe teams don't need point guards. If they could flip spots with, I don't know, Atlanta, Dallas, like any of these teams behind them in the lottery, I'd consider doing it. So Sacramento, they're picking 7. I'm already angry about the idea of Darius Acuff going there and just being ruined by the Kings. I'm trying to let my anger out now so it doesn't upset me as much on draft night when they pick him.
I think he's gone before then.
I hope so. I
do. I think that's got Mikal Brown written all over it. And honestly,
good.
he went to Louisville and got hurt, and kind of no one really heard of him, so might be a good landing spot for him.
He's my least favorite of all those lottery point guards. So
Yep.
Let the Kings have him. That's great.
Yep.
Atlanta at 8 is really interesting to me because this is a team that accounted for 2 of the Knicks' 3 postseason losses this year. They have some nice talent in place already. They were obviously hoping that this pick, which comes from New Orleans, would be better than it turned out to be. They feel like a team to me that could use one of these point guards. And truthfully, I would love if they found a way to move up to get Acuff. That would be like an ideal scenario for me, putting him on that team where you have Jalen Johnson, you have, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you have McCollum. You drop him into that situation where he's not going to have to do a ton right away. He has some experienced guards that he'll be playing with. That, to me, is a great situation for his development. Again, I don't think he'll fall to 8. I don't think that there's a scenario where he falls past Sacramento. As you said, he might not even make it to Sacramento. What would you want to see Atlanta do here?
So the thing with Atlanta is, I feel like they play best when Jalen has the ball, like when he's kind of point forward. I'm also interested to see what they do with Kuminga, because I think he's someone who needs the ball.
Yep.
So I'm hopeful that Acuff goes, I wouldn't mind seeing him go 5 or 6, especially if there's a trade. I'm not huge on it because I think Acuff also needs the ball.
He does.
So I think Atlanta getting someone who's more of like a scoring point guard who could be a little bit more of a better defender. So that's where I think a Flemings would be a great spot for Atlanta. He's a scoring guard. He's lengthy. Kind of fits that mold of Nickeil and Jalen and Kuminga, and you got CJ. So I personally think Acuff's gone by the time Atlanta comes around. So I'm hopeful that Flemings is there because I think he fits their team best.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that on ESPN's most recent mock draft, that's actually who is mocked to go to Atlanta at 8 is Flemings. ESPN has Wagler 5 to the Clippers, Acuff 6 to Brooklyn, Mikal Brown 7 to Sacramento. 9, the
Now, is
Dallas
there any
Mavericks.
way? Now that is where I would love to see Acuff, and this is weird because I'm a Kyrie person. I don't know. Do we think Kyrie's getting traded? Because if Kyrie's getting traded, I would love to see them trade up to try to get Acuff. I think that would be an awesome pairing with Cooper. I don't know who they would have to give up. Obviously, they'd probably trade 9, and then they have a good amount that they would be able to package with that. Um, and if they trade Kyrie, they could probably get another draft pick as well that they could package with that. And I think Acuff Cooper, that's a nice building block going for the next 10 years.
Yeah, assuming let's play it out. Let's say that Wagler goes 5, and then you have Brooklyn on the clock. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm calling up Dallas and I'm saying, look, we could just flip picks with you. You give us a couple more assets and we'll call it in right now. And
Yep.
if you're Dallas and you could get Acuff, it like I think that works perfectly. And probably you need to trade Kyrie at that point. There's some redundancy there, and it's especially weird because I think that Kyrie is like the primary comp that people like
Yep.
to throw out there for Acuff.
Yep. Yep.
But I do think that there will be a market for Kyrie if Dallas is entertaining the idea of moving off of him. I think that there will be a market this summer. I think that there would be at the trade deadline if they wanted to hang on to him until February. Assuming they don't trade up, to me, Braden Burries makes perfect
Yep.
sense for them there. Tough, physical, doesn't really need the ball in his hands. I think he you put him there alongside Kyrie in that backcourt, and that they could be solid pretty quick.
Yep.
Great running mate for Cooper Flag. But no, that like Brooklyn and Dallas flipping picks and Acuff going there. That's a great outcome
Like,
for basketball fans and
yeah,
Dallas.
like what you said, I think, Barry's, he had a great year, especially in the tournament at Arizona. I thought he was awesome. And I think he would fit their team with Kyrie. Like I think if he's on their team and we bring Kyrie back and Lively is healthy, like they have a shot to be, contending for a playoff spot, in my opinion, next year.
Yeah.
Now Utah
No,
is also
definitely.
going to be, I think Utah is right there too. But I think they don't own their draft picks after this year for quite a while. So if you could trade Kyrie and get some future draft picks and you could somehow get Acuff, I think that probably sets you up for the future a little bit better. But if they're gonna just stay at 9, you take berries and you go in and you try to make the playoffs and that could be beneficial for Cooper's development as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Milwaukee at 10 is a mystery. I have no idea. Like we said at the top, Giannis could get traded. He might have been traded while we're recording this pod. I have no idea. But Milwaukee's picking at 10. They'll have that pick. They might have another lottery pick for all we know. Golden State is at 11. Oklahoma City's 12, Miami's 13, Charlotte's 14. All those are interesting to me because Golden State, there's the LeBron thing looming. It's
Hmm.
over here. And, if you're the Warriors, you're thinking if we really have a shot at LeBron, do we potentially have a shot at bringing in a guy like Anthony Davis if he's unhappy in Washington? What do we add to this mix of veterans that could be helpful right away. To me, one of those Michigan guys makes sense there, and this is kind of the range for
Yep.
Mara and Yax and Johnson. Like they're all gonna go in this 10 to 15 range. And truthfully, I think all three of them will be pretty decent pros. So yeah, I don't know what Golden State will do. Oklahoma City at 12 may be the most interesting pick in the lottery just because they're adding to a team that has won 60 games every year over the last 3 years.
That's
What's
interesting
your
too,
feel?
because like, what are they going to do with Harkenstein? Like, are they going to try? Because they're going to have to move off some of these more expensive role players that they got when they won the championship. So if they do pick, like, say Mara drops and they pick him, I think that might be like a telltale sign that they might be leaning towards getting off, Harkenstein going forward. Maybe to keep him for this year, but then next year, like eventually they're going to move off him. Um,
Right.
so I think you'll see like what guy is it going to be? A defender. Okay, well maybe they're going to move off Dort, or are they going to be able to bring like that pick might tell you who the odd man out of their rotational piece will be.
Could it be Case and Wallace? That's the one to me for them that it feels like they could move on from, especially because of how AJ Mitchell came along,
Yep,
because
McCain.
of how well McCain played
Yep.
in the playoffs. It seems like Wallace might end up being the odd man out. Do you think that there's a world where they could package Wallace in 12 and move up? I don't know who they would move up for.
Well, I know
Like,
that earlier in the playoffs, there was heavy talk that they were very active in trying to move up to 3 to get Boozer. Now I don't know if that is something that's still on the table, but if you package Case and Wallace, Isaiah Joe in 12, like that's a heck of a package. Or if it's Boozer, you might feel comfortable saying we'll give you AJ Mitchell in 12. Um that to move the needle, like there's a lot of different places they could go there. Um yeah, I do think that that's a possibility.
yeah, that's it. I don't know if Wallace and Joe and 12 is enough for Memphis to flip. If I'm
But
Memphis,
would
I
AJ
don't think that that's
AJ
enough.
Mitchell, what about AJ Mitchell, Wallace in 12,
If I find a way to unload Ja, then I'm really thinking about it.
right? I just there's so many guys in weird spots on teams, like, and obviously we have OKC, this team that's already established that has this high draft pick. Like they could do so much with it, and they have so many rotational players that they could package this pick with. Um, I think 12, like you said, that's the most interesting trade pick, in my opinion.
It's also worth noting they have the 17th pick too.
Right. Yeah, like 12, 17, AJ, and Case and Wallace. You know,
Yeah, that you at least have to have a meeting about that one if you're Memphis, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, and then rounding out the lottery, your beloved Charlotte Hornets. They have 14. They also have 18. They're an interesting team. They're going to be a team on the rise in the East this year. Um, let's talk about the East quick, and we'll wrap up with this. And the looming Giannis trade will change a lot of things. We assume it's going to be either Boston or Miami. I'm hopeful that it's going to end up being Miami, if only because Boston's already going to be interesting next year. They don't need a Giannis trade to be a contender. They're going to be right there. Miami getting Giannis means there's another team in the East that is going to be really interesting. And we should note, going into the Eastern Conference next year, assuming Giannis ends up in Miami, let's just play that out. You're going to have the Knicks, the Celtics, the Pistons, the Pacers, the Sixers, the Hornets, the Hawks, the Cavs, the Magic, the Wizards, the Raptors, and the Heat, all thinking that they could be playoff teams. That's 12 in the Eastern Conference. This is suddenly a pretty deep East.
Yeah.
And we saw that come to be a little bit this year, where like you had that frisky Charlotte run where they surge into the play-in. Obviously, Orlando gives Detroit a hell of a time in round one. But, you know, the Knicks aren't going to have a cakewalk back to the finals. I think that they will rightfully be the favorites to win the East, but there are a hell of a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference who could be talking themselves into the idea of playing in the finals next year, or at the very least, winning a couple rounds in the playoffs.
Yeah. For starters, I gotta be honest. I do not want Giannis to go to Miami. Just because I
No, okay,
don't.
make the case.
Yeah, I feel like I'm bored with Miami. Like to me, that's not like I don't think that team with what they'd have to give up would be that great anyway. I'd be interested in how Bam and Giannis would play with each other. Um, but I feel like they'd have a severe lack of shooting because they'd give up probably their floor spacers within the trade itself. Um, and I just feel like it doesn't put Giannis in a spot to win another championship, like be a real title contender. I think they would make the playoffs and they would be top 4, but like I don't see them beating OKC or beating the Spurs in a championship series. I don't see them even really beating the Knicks if the Knicks are playing the best. And I think if he were to go to Boston and you pair him with Tatum, it's like, oh wow, like this might be the best team in basketball. So that's where I'm going. Now what you said, it would make Miami a contender in the East. And that would be awesome. It would be another great team. And you wouldn't also kind of lose a superstar to Milwaukee. Like we'd lose Jalen Brown in Milwaukee. I feel like we wouldn't get. Nah, I'm cool with letting Hero kind of go play at his hometown team and forget about him. So that would be a bummer, but I just think it moves the needle a little bit more if he goes to Boston, kind of create a super team.
Well, Boston definitely gives them a better chance to win a championship.
Yeah,
That's for certain. And I truthfully, if the Miami trade is what it comes to be, even if their starting 5 is Davion Mitchell, Norm Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam, that's solid, but there's still work to do. I don't know that they would be a top 4 seed in the East with how the East
right.
has shaped up for the last couple years. But my thinking on it was Boston's going to be interesting regardless. If
Yep.
they just run it back with the Jays and Derek White still there, they're going to be good. Putting Giannis in that mix, it doesn't give us a new team that
No,
is
it doesn't.
interesting. So that's my case for Miami, is if we get Giannis in Miami, now all of a sudden there are 12 teams for 10 spots.
If we
And,
get
you know,
Giannis in Miami, though, is it just Milwaukee 2 years ago? Like, is that where we're at? Or are they better? Like,
it very
if,
well could be.
you know,
That might be the ceiling.
right.
You're absolutely right. Do you think that there is a mystery team that could get in on Giannis? We'll end with this. Do you think that there's a third team, the mystery third man, that could, on the anniversary of Hulk Hogan joining the NWO 30 years ago as the third man, is there a third team that could make this interesting, the Giannis sweepstakes?
I hope so. I do. I hope there is. I think Miami is like the only team that's like, we're all in. Like, chips
Yeah.
are on the table. Here they are. Like, we're in this. We want Giannis. And that's why I think he ends up going there. I think there's going to be a couple of different teams, though, that tip their toes in the water. Like, if you're Golden State, how don't you? If you're OKC, how don't you just call? Like, I
You
think
have to make a call.
you got to call. You have 12 and 17. You got all of these young picks. I mean, you could trade future picks. Like, they have 13 draft picks, first-round draft picks. If you trade 4 first rounds and A.J. Mitchell and Cason Wallace and you get Giannis, like, you got to call. You know, I think if you're Golden State, now Golden State, I think that's more of like a dream scenario. Because what are you going to give up Jimmy and Draymond? Like, why would Milwaukee want that?
That's not going to get it done.
I've heard maybe Orlando dips their toes in a little bit. You could offer Paulo. And like, obviously Paulo for Giannis, like, well, no, that doesn't really move the needle, but is Paulo a better package than Tyler Hero? I think so. Like, I think if Orlando wants Giannis, they can get him. I'm just not sure they're going to be interested in giving up Paulo for Giannis. Giannis is in a really weird, like, spot right now where he's clearly a top 5 player, but I feel like teams are a little afraid.
Well, he's in his 30s. The last few years, his health hasn't been great. And with him, it's always been, well, at his peak, he was this indestructible force and just
Mm-hmm.
so physically imposing. And you figure a guy in his 30s is going to lose some of that. He's had back issues. He's had like lower body issues that, like, it is scary. And it does feel like Milwaukee has almost inflated his trade value to a point where, like, maybe they're asking for too much for a guy who's going to be on the downswing of his career pretty soon if he's not already.
Can I throw another
I
team
had
in
two.
there that I'm desperate for? And you might
Hold
not
on,
like
can
this.
because I'm not going to like this.
I don't know. Maybe not.
So I have two teams that I think could be the third man here. But give me your team, and I'll tell you if it's one of the two that I had.
So I thought that it was pretty clear that Cleveland gave their word to Harden that they were going to re-sign him at the number that he wanted, and it was a secret handshake. And you don't want to go back on your word for future free agents. But my man did just get arrested for a gun charge. If they could
Yeah.
somehow not sign him and trade Mobley and bring in Giannis and have money to maybe bring in somebody else to fit around. I, I I'm sorry. I was very disappointed in the way Cleveland showed up in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that team hit their peak, and I would love to see. I think Giannis in Cleveland would be awesome. Like, that would be really cool. That's now if LeBron's not coming back, obviously.
So that isn't one of the two teams I had. For the record, I would be on board with that because
Okay.
Mobley for multiple years now has left me wanting more. And you know, I think Giannis and Mitchell together, you could at least talk yourself into something that, you know, in the East, okay, maybe we could have the two best players in any given series. Is that enough to get you over the hump? I think it might be. I didn't include Cleveland because from everything I've been hearing around here, and it's not like I'm plugged in with anybody, but that doesn't even seem to be on anyone's radar.
Mm-hmm.
They seem committed to Mobley. They seem committed to this group and running it back again and seeing how it plays out. But for the record, I would be on board with that. So the two teams I had that I thought could get in the mix. If you're the Bucks, would you be interested in Şengün and Jabari Smith for Giannis?
Yeah.
And
I would.
picks are going to be included, obviously.
Right.
Like, I don't think that there's any deal that Milwaukee would take that doesn't include picks. But just as a starting point, do those two guys plus however many picks Milwaukee feels like they need, does that get it done for Giannis, you think?
Based on the Miami package, I think it has to. Like, I think that's a
That's
better
better than
package.
Miami, isn't it?
It's a better package than Miami. Like, no, I don't think Sengun is as good as Giannis, and yeah, you probably give a little there, but at this point, like you mentioned, his value is his value. And yeah, I think that beats out a Miami package. I do.
Okay, I agree with you. The other one I thought, and I have a weird feeling about this team, I feel like that they are desperately trying to get in the mix for something. Does Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and Terrence Shannon, is that enough?
I don't think so, and I wish it was.
You love that. You want the Timberwolves to be interesting. I know.
I just want, like, Anthony Edwards is so, and again, like, I think if they were healthy, like, they would have been a little bit more competitive this playoffs, and they did, they won a round that no one thought they were going to win. Um, I really think that Ant is that guy. And he's playing in the West, and he needs somebody else. He cannot have Julius Randle be his second guy. So I would love it. I don't think I'd rather have Miami's package at that point.
Oh, interesting.
And
See, I
only
still
because
think that,
Hero is from Milwaukee. That's the only reason why.
Okay. I get that. I don't know. I was really impressed with the way that McDaniels came along this year.
Mm-hmm.
Naz Reid has been a perennial 6-man of the year guy for the last couple of years. And I think there's something there with Terrence Shannon. I don't know what it is, but that dude is just like a fucking wrecking ball in the open court.
He was great at Illinois. Like, he was good
Steph
in college.
Castle shut his ass down in the Elite Eight.
Well, I think Steph Castle has proven that he's going to do that to just about anybody. Like, I think he's a legitimate player. He needs to be on the court for them. Even if he doesn't get traded, like, he needs to be one of their core pieces to be where they need to be.
I completely agree. Hopefully nothing happens before this podcast goes up.
Nothing has happened yet. Nothing has happened yet. So we got 24 hours.
We're in the clear. 24 hours. If something does happen before then, you hopefully had fun listening to us talk about some fake Giannis trades, but what could have been. If not, we'll be back. I think post draft, we'll do something post draft, pre-free agency. We'll get a summer preview up. It should be an interesting summer. Giannis trade plus everything else. It's going to be fun, and we're shaping up for what should be an awesome year next year, building on the momentum of this season. We'll be back to break it all down. We've got season 2 of Campfire coming next year. Vin, anything else to add before you get to your pool day?
No, happy Father's Day to everyone. Shout out New York Knicks. Upset that we didn't get a Dante DiVincenzo or a Charlie Ward sighting. But congrats to the champs. Finished the year strong, and just super excited for the NBA to me dominates their offseason more than any other sport. The year, though, was great. The product was great. And now we get to sit back and just enjoy the madness.
Can't wait to break it down with you, buddy. Enjoy the pool. Enjoy Father's Day, whatever you guys have going on. We'll talk soon, all right?
Take care, my man.